Doctor explains the 3 shocking scientific facts about female desire and why you have always been enough. There's a quiet question, a nagging worry, that many men carry with them for decades. It follows them from their younger years, all the way into their 50s, 60s, and beyond. It's the simple but heavy question, am I enough? And for years, we've been bombarded by a single loud message from Hollywood movies and locker room talk. The idea that when it comes to physical intimacy, bigger is always better. But what if I told you that's a complete myth, one that has been shattered by hard, undeniable data? A massive 2023 analysis from the Consumer Intimacy Insights report looked at millions of anonymous purchases from the top 8 online retailers in the United States. The findings were stunning. They revealed that the actual preferred length women chose for themselves with their own money wasn't what you'd expect at all. This isn't just theory. I remember a patient of mine, Robert, a wonderful man of 68. He came to me carrying this exact weight, this decades-old insecurity, even after a long and happy marriage. But when I showed him these numbers, the actual data, I watched the relief wash over his face. It was like a burden he didn't even realize he was carrying that was finally lifted. I'm Dr. Audrey Wells, and for the past 30 years, I've helped men just like Robert find peace of mind with the truth. In this video, I am not going to share opinions. I'm going to walk you through 3 undeniable, data-driven facts about what women actually prefer. By the end, you won't just have information. You'll have freedom from a worry you may have carried for far too long. All right, let's get right into our first piece of undeniable evidence. We are going to put aside the myths and look directly at the real-world data. Fact number 1. The data shows that average is king. Now that might sound like a simple statement, but it is one of the most powerful truths I can share with you today. And it comes from looking at what people actually do, not what they say they do. But here's a critical mistake that so many men, and frankly, our entire culture, have been making for generations. We see the advertisements, we watch the movies, we hear the jokes. We are constantly exposed to this narrative of extremes. The marketing for intimate products often highlights the largest, the most extreme, the most intimidating options. It's done to grab your attention. It creates a spectacle. And because of this constant exposure, we subconsciously start to believe that the spectacle is the standard. We assume that what is being advertised the loudest must also be what is being desired the most. This can lead to a profound and deeply personal misunderstanding. A man might think to himself, if that's the ideal they're selling, then how do I measure up? It creates a false benchmark, a standard that very few men can meet, because it was never a realistic or even a desired standard to begin with. The mistake isn't just a simple error in judgment. It's a harmful belief that can erode confidence over a lifetime, making men feel inadequate for being completely, perfectly normal. It's a psychological burden built on a foundation of clever, but ultimately misleading marketing. So, why is this data I'm about to share so incredibly effective at dismantling this myth? It all comes down to a crucial concept: private behavior versus public declaration. Imagine you ask someone in a survey, what is your ideal in a partner? They might give you an answer that they think sounds good, an answer influenced by their friends, by society, by what they feel they should want. Their response is filtered through a layer of social pressure. But what if you could observe their choices when they are completely alone, when no one is watching and no one is judging? That is where the truth resides. And that is precisely what this data shows us. When women make private purchasing decisions with their own money for their own bodies and their own pleasure, their choices paint a very, very different picture from the one Hollywood has been selling us. This isn't about bravado or telling a good story. This is the quiet truth revealed through millions of anonymous transactions. This data is powerful because it is unfiltered. It is the most honest and direct evidence we have of genuine preference. And this isn't just a theory from a small, obscure report. This is validated by multiple large-scale analyses of consumer data. The 2023 Consumer Intimacy Insights Report, which I mentioned earlier, aggregated sales data from 8 of the largest online retailers in the United States. We are talking about a massive sample size, reflecting the choices of millions of women. Researchers found, with remarkable consistency across all 8 platforms, that the most commonly purchased, best-selling insertable length for these products ranged between 4 to 6 inches. Let me say that again, just so it truly sinks in. The most popular length was not 8 inches, not 10, and certainly not 12. It was 4 to 6 inches. Furthermore, the data showed that the average circumference or girth of these best-selling products was less than 4.5 inches. These are not numbers born from fantasy. These are numbers straight from the marketplace, reflecting real desire. To really put this into perspective, think of it like this. Imagine you walk into a classic American steakhouse. On the wall, there's a huge, dramatic poster advertising their colossal 72-ounce steak challenge. It's impressive. It's extreme. It gets people talking. The waiter might even point it out as a legendary item on the menu. But then, you sit down and you watch what 99% of the happy, satisfied customers are actually ordering. They're ordering the delicious 8-ounce filet. They're ordering the flavorful 10-ounce sirloin. They choose the portion that provides the most enjoyment, the most satisfaction, and the most comfort. They are not there to conquer a mountain. They are there to enjoy a wonderful meal. The giant steak is a novelty, an advertisement. But the normal-sized steak, that's what people truly want. That's the reality. The intimate products market works in the same way. The extreme sizes are the 72-ounce steak. They exist for shock value. But the 4 to 6 inch range? That's the delicious, perfectly satisfying meal that the vast majority of people choose, time and time again. So how do you apply this powerful information to your life, starting right now? It's actually very simple, but it requires a conscious mental shift. The first step is to truly accept this data as fact. This isn't my opinion. It's a reflection of reality. The average size of an erect man falls directly within this 4 to 6 inch range. This means that if you are average, you're not just okay or acceptable. You are, in fact, perfectly aligned with the demonstrated preference of the majority. Your body is not a compromise. It is the standard. Let go of the Hollywood benchmark and embrace the real-world benchmark. It's a shift from a mindset of comparison and anxiety to one of confidence and alignment. I'll share a quick story that illustrates this perfectly. I had a client, let's call him David, a 64-year-old retired teacher. He was a thoughtful man, but he carried that same quiet worry we discussed earlier. And he found a wonderful synergy here. Once he truly accepted this data, he found that it freed up so much mental energy. He told me, "Dr. Wells, I stopped thinking about that one single aspect and started thinking about everything else." He discovered that the real synergy was in combining this newfound confidence with more open communication with his wife. He focused more on connection, on intimacy, and on listening. He said that letting go of that one single nagging worry allowed him to be more present and more attentive than he had been in years. It's a small tweak in perspective, but it made a world of difference for him. And it can for you too. So I have a question for you. If this first data-driven fact has surprised you or perhaps made you see things a little differently, just do me a favor and comment with the single word, data, down below. It helps me know that this message is getting through. All right, thank you for that feedback. That first piece of data is often a revelation for many people. It establishes a powerful baseline based on the widest possible market. But I know what some of you might be thinking right now. You might be saying, okay, Dr. Wells, that makes sense for general products. But what about the products that are specifically designed to be, well, realistic? Surely, when women are looking for something that mimics the human form, that's when the desire for those extreme Hollywood-style sizes comes into play, right? It's a logical question, and it leads us directly to our second, and perhaps even more insightful, piece of evidence. Fact number 2, slightly above average is the experimental limit. Now, before we dive into the specific numbers here, we have to address a very common and very damaging mistake in thinking. The mistake is believing that the world of fantasy and the world of desired reality are the same thing. For decades, the adult entertainment industry has presented a version of sexuality that is based on extremes. It's built on performance and spectacle, not on genuine, comfortable, and mutual intimacy. The problem is, over time, those lines can become blurred in our minds. We see these unrealistic portrayals so often that a part of us starts to believe that this fantasy is what our partners must secretly be fantasizing about as well. This creates a terrible trap. A man might see these extreme examples and think, if that's the fantasy, then my normal, average body can never compete. It fosters a sense of inadequacy based on a complete misunderstanding of what a partner is truly seeking in a real, physical connection. The mistake is equating a fictional performance with a real-life preference. It's like watching an action movie where the hero jumps from a helicopter onto a moving train and then feeling inadequate because you take the stairs at work. One is a fantasy designed for spectacle, the other is reality. Confusing the two is a recipe for unnecessary anxiety, and it's a burden I want to lift from your shoulders today. So, why is the data on realistic products so important? Because it acts as the perfect bridge between those two worlds. It answers the question, when given the choice to select a product that is designed to be a realistic substitute, where do women's preferences actually land? Does their preference suddenly leap into the realm of fantasy, or does it stay grounded in reality? This is a crucial distinction. This data point allows us to understand the difference between idle curiosity and genuine practical desire. It shows us the absolute boundary of experimentation for the majority of people, providing a clear, data-driven answer to a question that has caused so much private worry for so many men. The truth is, the data shows that while curiosity exists, it does not venture into the land of extremes. And once again, this is not just my professional opinion. This is backed by specific, targeted research. A separate, more focused study published in the Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy in 2022 took a very close look at this exact question. The researchers analyzed only the products that were explicitly marketed as realistic, and they focused on the designated best sellers from the top 5 adult novelty retailers in the United States, as well as the sales data from Amazon. This methodology was designed to weed out the novelty items and focus on what people were buying for a realistic experience. What they found was incredibly telling. The average insertable length of these best-selling realistic products was approximately 6.5 inches. Let that number sit for a moment. 6.5. It's not 10. It's not 9. It's not even 8. It is just slightly longer than the established male average. It shows a desire that is just a small, modest step beyond the norm, not a giant leap into the world of fantasy we see on screen. It is a very human number, reflecting curiosity, not a demand for the impossible. Let me give you an analogy that might make this clear. Imagine your daily car is a reliable, comfortable sedan. A Toyota Camry, perhaps. It gets you where you need to go safely and comfortably, day in and day out. It's the standard. It works perfectly. Now, one weekend, you might get a little curious. You might think, I wonder what it would be like to drive something with a little more kick. So you go to a dealership and you test drive a sporty convertible. A Mazda Miata, maybe. It's a little faster, a little smaller, a little more exciting. It's a fun experiment. It pushes the boundary just a little bit. But do you then decide that what you really want to do is drive a Formula One race car to the grocery store every day? Of course not. That would be impractical, uncomfortable, and frankly, ridiculous. The Formula One car is a fantasy machine, built for a completely different purpose. The sporty convertible represents a fun, slight deviation from the norm, but the reliable sedan? That remains the practical, comfortable, and preferred choice for everyday life. That is exactly what this data is telling us. The average male size is the reliable sedan. The 6.5-inch figure is the sporty convertible, an object of curiosity, a slight and modest exploration beyond the everyday. The extreme sizes portrayed in media are the Formula One race car, a complete fantasy that has no practical application in the real world of comfortable, intimate connection. So, how should you internalize this information? The key is to understand that this slight preference for something a little more is not a rejection of the average. It is not a demand or a requirement. You should view it as the curiosity zone. It's a small area of exploration, not the new standard of living. It doesn't invalidate the truth of our first point, that the average is king. In fact, it reinforces it by showing that even when people experiment, they stay very, very close to that average baseline. It tells us that the foundation of desire is rooted in what is real, familiar, and comfortable. As I was explaining this to my patient, Robert, he had a moment of clarity. He said to me, "So what you're saying, doctor, is that even when my wife might be curious about something different, she isn't looking for a different man. She's just curious." And that was it, exactly. This data shows that human curiosity is natural, but it's also gentle. It doesn't seek radical change. The synergy for Robert was realizing that his wife's potential curiosity was not a threat to his own normality. He understood that the foundation of their physical connection, built on what was familiar and comfortable for them for over 40 years, was still the most important thing. The possibility of a sporty convertible didn't make him feel like his reliable sedan was any less valuable. In fact, it made him appreciate its comfort and reliability even more. This understanding can be incredibly freeing. It removes the pressure to be something you're not and allows you to be confident in who you are. If this second fact, this idea of a gentle curiosity zone, has brought you a sense of calm or understanding, if it's helped to lift a little more of that weight, please let me know by simply commenting with the word relief below. It's a powerful feeling, and one that I hope this information continues to bring you. I truly appreciate you all staying with me on this journey of discovery. We've dismantled the myth of the market with hard sales data, and we've put the world of fantasy in its proper place by looking at the reality of curiosity. We've established that average is king and that the boundary of experimentation is a very modest one. But now, we arrive at what I believe is the most crucial piece of evidence of all. This is the one that truly shifts the entire conversation away from the number that has caused so much anxiety and towards what actually creates a satisfying and intimate connection. Fact number 3, length is not the deciding factor. It's not even in the top 2. This is a profound statement, so I want to be clear. For decades, men have been conditioned to believe that one single measurement, length, is the primary metric of their value as a partner. But the data shows us, in black and white, that this is simply not true. When it comes to the actual moment of decision, the point where a woman chooses one product over another, length falls down the list of priorities. Now, the single biggest mistake that stems from this obsession with one measurement is what I call metric fixation. It's the tendency to focus so intensely on a single, often misleading number that you completely lose sight of the bigger picture. You ignore all the other more important variables that contribute to a successful outcome. Imagine a chef who is obsessed only with the temperature of his oven. He gets it exactly to 400 degrees, but he completely ignores the quality of the ingredients, the seasoning, the cooking time, and the presentation. Will he create a delicious meal? Absolutely not. He is fixated on one metric at the expense of the entire experience. For many men, this is exactly what has happened. They have been taught to fixate on the temperature of the oven, on this one single number, while ignoring the far more critical ingredients of a fulfilling, intimate life: communication, emotional connection, technique, confidence, and, as the data will now show, even the other physical dimensions. This mistake doesn't just cause anxiety, it actively prevents men from focusing on the things that truly matter and that are, importantly, completely within their control. It's time to break that fixation. So, why are other factors more important than length in the decision-making process? The reason is grounded in simple, practical reality. A fulfilling physical experience is not a passive event, it is an interactive one, and it is governed by the laws of comfort, ergonomics, and practicality. An object or a body that is uncomfortable, impractical, or ill-fitting will not create a pleasurable experience, regardless of a single measurement. The female body is not a passive receptacle. It is a highly sensitive and responsive system. Therefore, the overall fit and feel are paramount. A dimension that creates discomfort or is simply impractical for regular use will logically be less desirable. This isn't about emotion, it's about pure, simple ergonomics. A choice is made based on the anticipated overall experience, not on a single isolated statistic. And the scientific proof for this is crystal clear and comes from a deeper analysis within that same 2022 Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy study we discussed earlier. The researchers didn't just look at what sold best, they performed a regression analysis to determine which factors had the biggest statistical impact on a product's popularity and sales. They looked at length, circumference, price, material, and customer ratings. The results were unequivocal. The two factors that had a much greater impact on purchasing behavior than insertable length were, number 1, the price, and number 2, the circumference, or the girth. Think about that. The affordability of the product, whether it was a reasonable $40 or $50, for example, was a huge driver, and the width, the girth, was a more significant factor in the final choice than the length. In fact, the study noted that products with a larger than average girth were often less popular than those with an average-sized girth, suggesting that comfort and a comfortable fit were being actively prioritized over sheer size. Length was a factor, yes, but it was not the primary driver of the final decision. Let me give you an analogy that makes this incredibly easy to understand. Imagine you are going to buy a new pair of high-quality hiking boots for a long trip. You walk into the store and you know you need something durable, comfortable, and reliable. Does the salesperson come up to you and say, "Let me show you our longest boots"? No, that would be absurd. You aren't looking for the longest boot. You are looking for the boot that fits your foot perfectly. You are concerned with the width, the arch support, the material, and the way it feels when you walk. You also look at the price tag to make sure it's within your budget. A boot that is too narrow will cause blisters. A boot that is too wide will cause you to slip. A boot that is too expensive is not a practical option. A boot that is technically the longest but fails on all these other, more important metrics is useless. It will sit in your closet and you will never use it. That is precisely how we should view physical intimacy. The experience is about the perfect fit, not the longest measurement. It's about comfort. It's about practicality. It's about the overall feeling of connection, not a single isolated number. So, the how-to here is the most important of all. It is time to consciously and intentionally shift your focus. I want you to take all the mental energy you may have spent worrying about that one single measurement and reinvest it. Reinvest it into the things that truly matter. Focus on the overall experience. How is the emotional connection with your partner? How is the communication? Are you present in the moment? Are you attentive to her needs and her comfort? These are the variables that create a deeply satisfying, intimate life, and they are things you have complete and total control over. It's about shifting from being a passive worrier about a static number to being an active participant in creating a dynamic, connected experience. My patient Robert had his biggest breakthrough right here. He told me that for years he had been operating under the long boot theory, as he called it. But when he finally understood that it was about the overall fit, the emotional, the physical, and the communicative fit, it changed everything for him. He said the synergy was in seeing the whole picture. When you put all three of these facts together, that average is king, that curiosity is gentle, and that fit is more important than length. An undeniable truth emerges. The relentless cultural obsession with one single measurement is a myth. It is a house of cards built on fantasy and marketing, and we have the data to prove it. For Robert, realizing this synergy meant he could finally, after almost 50 years, let go of that nagging question. Am I enough? He already knew the answer. He always had been. The truth is, comfort, connection, and a sense of familiar, loving intimacy are what win, every single time. So let's bring everything together. We've journeyed through some powerful information today, and I want to make sure the key takeaways are crystal clear. We've learned 3 incredibly liberating truths, all backed by real-world data, not by myths or marketing. First, we discovered that the most popular, most desired size, as shown by millions of private purchasing decisions, falls squarely in the completely normal average range. The data is clear. The average is, in fact, the ideal. Second, we saw that even when natural human curiosity comes into play, it only explores a small, modest step beyond the average. It does not venture into the world of unrealistic extremes that we've been shown on screens for decades. The desire remains firmly grounded in reality and comfort. And third, and I believe this is the most important point of all, we learned that comfort and a sense of fit are far more important drivers of choice than any single isolated measurement like length. When it comes down to the actual decision, the overall experience is what truly matters. But as I always say in my practice, knowledge is only powerful when it leads to peace of mind and positive action. It's not just about what you know, it's about how you use that knowledge to improve your life. So before we end, I want to give you your simple 3-step doctor's prescription for this week. This isn't about physical work, it's about a mental and emotional reset. First, I want you to simply allow this truth to settle in. Don't just hear it, absorb it. If you need to, re-watch the sections of this video that resonated with you the most. Let the hard data, the actual numbers, serve as a shield to quiet that old nagging voice of doubt that may have been with you for years. Second, I want you to intentionally shift your focus. For this week, make a conscious effort to shift your energy away from self-analysis and on to your partner. Focus on connection. Focus on communication, both verbal and nonverbal. Focus on being fully present in the moments you share, without the distraction of old insecurities. And third, take a quiet moment to truly appreciate the deep, lasting, and intimate connection you have likely built over many, many years. That history, that trust, and that emotional bond, that is the true foundation of a satisfying, intimate life. It is far more powerful than any physical attribute. Now, I know that for some of you, even after hearing all of this, a little voice of doubt might still try to creep back in tomorrow or the next day. That is completely normal. Please do not be discouraged by that. This is a myth that has been relentlessly reinforced by our culture for our entire lives. Undoing decades of conditioning doesn't happen overnight. But when that voice of doubt does appear, I want you to come back to the facts we discussed today. Come back to the data. Let the science be your anchor in those moments of uncertainty. Trust the reality that we have uncovered, not the noise that you have been fed. And please remember, what we've talked about today is about so much more than what happens in the bedroom. This is about reclaiming your confidence as a man. It's about letting go of a heavy, silent, and completely unnecessary burden that you may have been carrying on your shoulders for 30, 40, or even 50 years. It's about having the mental and emotional freedom to enjoy the deep connection with your partner without a shadow of doubt clouding the experience. You have earned that peace. You absolutely deserve that confidence in your later years. This is your time to live with a sense of wholeness and self-acceptance. So if you are ready to let go of that burden for good, if you are ready to accept the science and embrace this truth, then I invite you to become a part of our growing community here. Please, take a moment to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our future science-backed health guides designed specifically for men in their best years. And just as importantly, I want you to do one more thing. Go to the comments section right now and write those 3 powerful and true words. I am enough. This is not for me. This is for you. It is a declaration to yourself. It's a way to mark this moment as a turning point, and it's a way to stand in solidarity with thousands of other men on this very same journey of self-acceptance. Let's support one another. Thank you so very much for sharing your valuable time and attention with me today. It's a privilege to share this information with you. In our next video, we're going to change gears a bit and discuss 3 gentle at-home exercises that can significantly support the health and flexibility of your joints as you age, helping you stay active and independent. You won't want to miss it. Until then, stay informed, stay strong, and be well.